Hi, it's Chip, and I just wanted to make a short video about what more work was required to finish up the UEF build effects that we were working on in the past few videos. So in particular, we've got these issues, these pull requests right here, where this one is the most relevant pull request, where we took care of all those dummy projectiles that were doing a lot more work than we initially thought they were doing, right? Because of the work that they did during on create, where they created more tables and created entries in themselves and all that additional work that these dummy projectiles don't need. They're not going to interact. The only reason we have them is so that we can get a smooth transition from one position to the next. And by all means, the changes in the effects themselves. And in particular, what we worked or what we didn't work on during the videos is the changes. Resolve conversation is the changes regarding to the build cube. Right, we took care of the engineer effects, the default one, and the slice beams. And for the remainder of this video, we'll be looking at a time lapse where I tackle the build cube thread, which is the actual little box that spawns on top of the building that we slice pieces off from each and every time. And this actually turned out to have some pretty nice inspiration, as per Sprouter's suggestion, was to reuse the projectile that we have for the builder, that we have for the slice beams. And by doing so, by reusing them for the default build beams as well, we get this effect, which is quite interesting, where instead of the beam jumping from one place to the next, it is as if we're literally making weld lines on top of the unit. Now, by all means, it's a bit more shaky than it really looks like. As an example, the bolt beam will make weld lines through the unit itself. It doesn't stick to the surface of the mesh. Because of that, it looks a bit weird at times. But if you have sufficient beams, and typically you'll have if you are assisting in a factory, then there's going to be multiple engineers doing that. The effect looks pretty sweet, like we can see here with the Percival or with the Battlecruiser right there. Um, and that summed up the changes to the UEF build effects. And in addition, there was a pull request from Broker Joe that did exactly the same thing that we did in the videos, but then applied it to the UEF commander projectile. Right, so this is used by the support commander and by the armored command unit, where instead of having one beam, there's two beams coming from the arm of the command unit, which is from a code perspective, it's not very different from what we did before. It's just that there's two beams instead of one, and during the videos, given that the number of units is quite low, I didn't do it during the videos, but Broker Joe took it upon himself to tackle this anyway, and the results are great. Right, the code is a lot more efficient, even though that, as he mentions it himself, the amount of units actually using this is relatively low, as it is the sum of all, which is great. And this is not the only changes that we can make. If you go to the GitHub, so let's go to the GitHub when I'm not logged in. There we go. Then you can open up the projects, and inside there is projects surrounding the profiler, but we also have projects surrounding optimizing the game files. And these issues and pull requests are carefully curated so that they're explaining the problem in as much detail as possible so that people can pick them up. Just as an example, this is the description to optimize some of the generic effect utility functions that are commonly used by mods, for example, but also by some of the effects of the base game. And these can be picked up by people, and the idea is that you can discuss those issues at, for example, the game-repository channel, for which you need the tester role. So by all means, make sure that you get that role in role selection right here, which, if I am not mistaken, is this one. Let me check that. Association board, admin, tester. There we go. Did I now lose it? Yeah, so it's this one. And as soon as you have this one, then you can type in the game-repository channel and ask for help, or ask for questions surrounding the code, or surrounding issues, or surrounding pull requests, or look for more opportunities, etc. And we welcome you by all means. With that said, next week on April the 12th, there's going to be another session where, instead of looking at the base code, the base repository, we will instead be looking at a platoon function that is used by the RNG AI mod made by Relenter and Chip. And we'll be looking at some of the low-hanging fruit that you can apply while coding, in terms of performance, but also in terms of maintainability, in terms of readability of the code, to improve the code from various aspects, while not necessarily spending a lot of time on those improvements. So it's more like, again, the low-hanging fruit, but then without the mathematical part that we had in the previous series. By all means, I hope to see you there. And I never know how to end these type of videos. So goodbye.